Good afternoon, boys. I want to welcome you once again to our lesson that is done online. Boys, yesterday we were looking at glaciation, and I started the lesson by introducing glaciation. I remember we looked at the various terms that are associated with the glaciation. The terms were terms like glaciation, glacier, snow, ice, ice cap, among others. Allow me, students, to continue with this topic on glaciation. And today, I want us to begin by looking at the differences between valley glacier and ice sheet. You may be asked to give the differences between valley glacier and ice sheet. What is a valley glacier? Boys, a valley glacier is a large mass of glacier that is confined within the valley, which guides its flow from higher ground to lower ground. Allow me to repeat. A valley glacier is a large mass of ice that is confined within the valley, and the valley guides its flow from higher ground to lower ground. Boys, what is ice sheet then? We defined ice sheet yesterday as a large and continuous mass of ice covering a large area of a lowland in a temperate region. So an examiner may ask you this question, that you differentiate between a valley glacier and an ice sheet. The first differences that we get from their definitions is that, boys, a valley glacier is found on highlands, or a valley glacier is found above the snow line, while an ice sheet is found in the lowland, in the low latitude regions. Number two, a valley glacier is confined within the valley, while an ice sheet covers an extensive landscape. After looking at the differences between valley glacier and ice sheet, boys, it is equally important that we know what we mean by Sac Glacier. What is a Sac Glacier? A Sac Glacier is a mass of moving ice which occupies depressions along the mountain slope. Mass of moving ice which occupies depressions on the mountain slope are known as Sac Glacier. Another mass of glacier that is important that we know is known as Piedmont Glacier. In a layman language, a Piedmont Glacier is found at the foot of the mountain when two valley glaciers meet at the foot of the mountain. Now, boys, can we define a Piedmont Glacier? A Piedmont Glacier is a glacier found at the foot of the mountain when valley glaciers converge into a continuous mass of ice at the foot of a mountain. Another mass of glacier that is very important that we know and is associated with this topic called glaciation is an ice cap. What is an ice cap? An ice cap, boys, refers to a dome-shaped glacier that are less extensive than ice sheet and permanently covers either an highland area or covers mountain top. After looking at various terms which are associated with glaciation, it is therefore important that we know that glacier normally moves and glacier moves in different ways. You will be asked, give 3 ways through which ice or glacier moves. Boys, glacier moves as number 1, basal slip. Number 2, plastic flowage. Number 3, extrusion flow. And number 4, internal shearing. Ways through which glacier moves. Glacier may move as plastic flowage. Glacier may move as intrusion flow. Glacier may move as internal shearing. Glacier may move as basal slip, plastic flowage, intrusion flow, and internal shearing. Let's begin by looking at the first way through which glacier moves, and the first way is basal slip. How does glacier move through basal slip? Boys, when we have valley glacier within the valley, then the weight of the glacier will exert pressure at the valley bottom, and when pressure is exerted on ice on the valley bottom, the ice on the valley bottom will melt and form a film of water. This film of water that is formed between the rocks and the glacier or ice will act as a lubricant or will act as a grease, making the glacier or the ice to slide over the film of water as the glacier moves downstream. The second way through which glacier moves is known as extrusion flow. What is extrusion flow? Extrusion flow normally takes place in a lowland area when there is a large mass of ice that accumulates, forming an ice sheet. Boys, because of the pressure that is exerted at the center of the accumulated ice, the pressure at the center makes the glacier to move outwards due to pressure exerted at the center, and this outward movement of ice from the central area of accumulation due to pressure exerted at the center is known as extrusion flow. Number 3, plastic flowage. What is plastic flowage? Plastic flowage also occur within the valley glacier. As the glacier accumulates within the valley, boys, glacier exerts pressure at the valley sides. Pressure is also exerted at the valley bottom. And remember, when pressure is exerted on ice, then the ice will melt into water. But for this case of a plastic flowage, it is the film of water that has melted which shift their position downslope before again they are frozen into ice. The differences between plastic flowage and basalt slip is that in basalt slip, the water created as a result of pressure act as a lubricant, making the glacier to slide over them. But in plastic flowage, after the ice is subjected to pressure and ice at the sides and at the bottom of the glacier melts, then it is this film of water that moves before they again or before they are frozen again. Way number 4, that is not in your notes, is known as internal shearing. What is internal shearing? Internal shearing is the movement of glacier which is caused by pressure being exerted at different layers of the glacier. And as pressure is exerted on different layers, the film of water are created at different layers of the glacier, making the different layers of glacier to move down slope at different rate of movement. Such movement of different layers of glacier is known as internal shearing. Boys, after looking at different ways through which glacier moves, it is equally important that we look at the factors that influence the rate at which glacier moves, or the factors which influence the movement of glacier. Factor number 1, the gradient of the landscape. Boys, glacier will move. Sorry for that interference, boys. Let us continue. We were looking at factors that influence the rate at which glacier moves. I just said that one of the factors which influence the rate at which glacier moves is known as gradient. And I was telling you that glacier moves fast on steeper slope than on gentle slope, because on steeper slope, glacier is subjected to stress, which is caused by the force of gravity. Number 2, thickness of glacier. Boys, thicker glacier will move faster than lighter glacier because thicker glacier will exert pressure on ice at the bottom making the ice at the bottom to melt into water, which act as a lubricant, making glacier to move. Factor number 3, friction. Movement within the glacier valley is faster at the center, where friction is least, while at the sides and bottom of the valley, friction is high, and this makes the movement of glacier to be reduced or to be slow. Factor number 3. Factor number 3, we have season or temperature. It is important as far as season is concerned that you know that we normally have winter temperatures and summer temperatures. During summer, the temperature is high, making glacier to melt, and therefore movement will be faster during summer than during winter, when the entire of glacier is ice. The next factor is the width of the glacier channel. Narrow channel sections of the glacial trough accelerate its flow by squeezing it out, while wider channel of the glacial trough ease out pressure, thus decreasing the movement of the glacier. After looking at the factors influencing the movement of glacier, it is equally important, boys, that we look at processes of glacial erosion. Remember, when you are looking at rivers, you looked at processes of river erosion. We also have processes of wind erosion. We have processes of wave erosion. And now we are looking at processes of glacier erosion. Glacier only erodes through 2 processes. Process number 1, plucking process. Process number 2 is known as abrasion process. So boys, when you are asked to give the processes through which glacier erodes the Earth's surface, there are only 2 processes. Number 1 is abrasion, and number 2 is plucking. Can we look at how glacier erodes through abrasion? This is a process where glacier uses rock particles, pebbles, and boulders as erosion tools to scratch and smoothen the surfaces through which glacier is moving through. What I mean, as the glacier moves over the rock surface, materials that are embedded within the glacier, which may be rock particles, which may be pebbles, or which may be boulders, are used by the glacier to scratch and also smoothens the rocks within the bed of the valley and at the sides of the valley. The second process, boys, through which glacier erodes is known as plucking. What is plucking? Plucking is a process through which glacier erodes by freeze-thaw action, where freeze is a process by which water turns into ice, and thaws is a process by which glacier melts into water. Therefore, freeze-thaw action is the process by which ice turns into water through melting, and again, water turns into ice through freezing. How does this process take place, boys? This process takes place during winter and summer. For instance, during summer, glacier melts and water accumulates into the cracks within the rocks. During winter, the water that got into the crack freezes, and as the water freezes, the ice within the cracks increase in volume and exerts pressure within the cracks. As freeze-thaw action continues, the cracks within the rocks will be subjected to a lot of stress, making the rock to crack and glacier to pull the rocks away as glacier moves over them. This process, boys, is known as plucking process. After looking at abrasion and plucking process, boys, it is important that we look at factors that influence glacial erosion. Factor number 1, the resistance of underlying rocks. How do you explain this factor? Well-jointed rocks are easily eroded by plucking process because the joints allow water to accumulate in them that will later on be frozen and exerts pressure within the joints. It is also important to note that softer rocks are eroded faster through abrasion. Hard rocks without joints slow down the processes of abrasion and plucking. Factor number 2, we have a factor known as amount of debris transported. Remember that debris act as erosive tools in abrasion, and when there are more debris embedded within the ice, abrasion will be more effective, while less debris slows down the abrasion process. Factor number 3, the speed of the glacier. Boys, glacier moving at a higher speed has a stronger ability to erode the glacial trough through abrasion, while slow speed reduces the energy, hence the rate of abrasion also reduces. Factor number 3, thickness and weight of the glacier. It is important that we note that thick glacier are heavy and exerts high pressure upon the rocks beneath, causing plucking. High pressure over the rocks increases friction between them, thus enhancing erosion. It is equally important that we know that thick glacier also carries more debris, which increases the rate of abrasion. Boys, this brings us to the end of our lesson today. Let us meet again tomorrow. And if you have any question, please you can ask through our WhatsApp group. Thank you, and may you have a good evening.